All right, welcome. Today we're going to dive into a really fascinating philosophical work called The Supreme Sign by Said Nursi. We're going to explore how this text makes the case that the entire universe is one single powerful proof for its creator.
So, how do we even begin to tackle a question like that? Well, this whole work is built around finding an answer. And to do that, we're asked to follow a metaphorical traveler who basically represents human reason on a quest through the cosmos to figure it all out.
All right, let's start this journey with our intellectual traveler. His mission is, pretty simple on the surface, but it's also one of the deepest quests you can imagine, to find unshakable faith by truly understanding his creator through the world itself.
So he's not literally flying through space, right? He's traveling with his intellect, with his mind. And as he goes, he questions everything he sees, searching for solid, definitive proof of a single, all-powerful, and necessarily existent creator.
Okay, so our traveler makes his first stop, and right away, he observes what the text calls four profound truths. These are big ideas that seem to run the entire cosmos, and they all point to the very same conclusion.
And what he finds here is fascinating. He discovers these four truths that aren't just separate ideas, they're all connected. They actually build on one another to make a really powerful case for unity. Let's break them down.
So first up, absolute divinity. What does that even mean? Well, think about it. The traveler realizes that the whole act of worship, of having a purpose, only really makes sense if there's one single source. If you had two or more gods, who would you turn to? It would just create confusion, contradiction. The whole point of existence for a thinking being would kind of fall apart.
Next, he senses this hidden hand, what the text calls dominicality. It's like a wise, compassionate force nurturing and guiding everything, from the smallest atom to the biggest star. And the logic here is that this system is so intricate and purposeful that if another power interfered even a tiny bit, the whole thing would just descend into chaos.
And number 3 on his list, absolute perfections. He looks around and sees this incredible beauty, this undeniable wisdom and order in the universe, and he argues that has to point to an equally perfect creator. See, perfection by its very nature can't be shared. Any kind of partnership would automatically mean there's a limit, a flaw, an imperfection, which totally contradicts the flawless art we see everywhere.
And finally, he lands on absolute sovereignty. The universe, he realizes, is like this perfectly run kingdom. Every planet, every law of physics, follows its orders. We all know you can't have two kings running one country without it turning into a mess of conflict and anarchy. Well, the text argues the same is true for the cosmos. A perfect kingdom demands one sovereign.
So he's got these big, abstract ideas down. But now, he wants to see them in action. He's looking for real-world, living proof. So he moves on to a second stopping place to find concrete examples.
And where does he look first? The humble bee. But this isn't just any insect. The source text calls the bee a miracle of God's power. It sees this tiny creature as performing a task that is truly monumental.
I mean, think about it. How does this tiny little creature do all this? It has this whole complex program packed into its tiny head, it produces one of the most perfect foods from its stomach, and it wields this dangerous poison without ever harming itself. The argument is that this isn't just random chance. It points to a wise and purposeful creator. From the tiny bee, our traveler moves on to something bigger, cattle. He sees the production of milk as another incredibly powerful sign of a wise and merciful power at work in our world.
And this is where the idea of a compassionate design really clicks into place, right? You have this pure, clean, life-giving substance being created right in the middle of blood and waste, yet it comes out completely separate, completely unpolluted. That separation, the text says, is a deliberate, merciful act.
All right, for his final living example, you can really see how the argument is building here. He looks at the fruit of the vine, the grape, and sees it as a sign for people who really stop and think.
And this is all about wonder. I mean, just stop and think about it for a second. You take dry, lifeless-looking dirt, and out of it comes this incredible, sweet, complex fruit. The text presents this as the work of an infinitely powerful artist, one who can turn dust into an absolute delicacy.
So, after seeing all these signs in the living world, the traveler is now ready to grapple with maybe the biggest, most mind-bending idea of all, the true nature of absolute power. And it's something that completely challenges our everyday understanding of how things work.
And this is where our human minds kind of hit a wall, right? For us, big things are hard. Small things are easy, simple. But for the absolute power the text is describing, creating a star is just as easy as making a single atom. Bringing about an entire resurrection is as effortless as making one season, spring, happen. Difficulty just doesn't exist.
So what's the logic behind that? Well, the idea is that this power is an essential part of God's very being. It's not something that can be gained or lost. And because it's essential, its opposite, weakness or impotence, can't even touch it. There's no way for it to get in. And if there's no possibility of weakness, then there can be no degrees of difficulty.
Okay, that's still pretty abstract, I know. So the text gives us this great analogy to help wrap our heads around it. Imagine a great commander with a perfectly obedient army. The command to move one soldier is exactly the same as the command to move the entire army. The effort is in giving the order, not in the scale of what happens next.
And when you follow that logic, you arrive at this just staggering conclusion. For this kind of power, scale means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Making the stars revolve is as easy as rotating atoms. Resurrecting the entire planet in springtime takes the exact same effortless act as making a single flower bloom.
So, with this new understanding of absolute power, everything starts to click into place for our traveler. He's seen the principles, he's seen the living proofs, and now he's ready to reach his final conclusion.
At the end of his journey, he realizes the universe isn't just a chaotic mess of stuff. It's a book, a single, coherent book filled with beautiful, meaningful signs, all written by the same golden pen of power. From the bee to the stars, everything is a word, a sentence, pointing back to the one author.
And that's really the final takeaway, isn't it? It leaves us with a question to chew on. What if we tried to adopt this traveler's perspective? What if we really tried to see the world not as just a collection of random things, but as a book filled with signs? How would that change the way we look at everything around us?
Have you ever wondered how someone could build a logical step-by-step argument for the existence of a creator? Well, today we're going to unpack the intricate reasoning found in Said Nursi's The Supreme Sign. You can think of it as a journey of discovery, and we're going to follow the map together.
Every journey has to start somewhere, and this one begins with one of the biggest questions imaginable. It's a question people have been asking for, well, forever. So how do you even begin to look for an answer to something so profound?
To tackle this, the text gives us a guide, a metaphorical traveler. So this isn't just going to be some dry, abstract argument. Nope, we're actually going to follow this traveler on their quest, see what they see, and piece together the clues right alongside them.
Now, our traveler's journey doesn't start in a library, surrounded by old books. It starts by simply listening. Listening to the world all around and to voices from realms that are maybe beyond our own.
And what the traveler finds is pretty fascinating. It's not just one source pointing in a direction, but a whole chorus. You have voices from the heavens, or angels, all affirming a creator. You've got some of history's greatest minds arriving at that very same idea. You have pure hearts that just feel this truth intuitively. And of course, the whole idea of divine revelation implies there has to be a speaker. It's almost like all these different roads are leading to the exact same destination.
But you know, these signs, as powerful as they are, they're still pretty general. They point towards a truth, for sure, but our traveler realizes they need something more concrete. They need a definitive, human witness who can speak with real authority.
This search for that one definitive witness leads the traveler to a single pivotal figure, the Prophet Muhammad. So now, the focus gets really sharp, moving from the vastness of the universe to the life of just one individual.
And the argument for his truthfulness isn't just based on one thing. The source lays out a really comprehensive case, one that's built on 9 distinct pillars of proof. This brings our traveler to a really vital step. I mean, think about it. Before you can believe what someone says, you first have to believe them, right? So the whole focus here is on establishing the credibility of the witness. If the messenger can be proven truthful, then his message, well, it carries incredible weight. So how is that credibility built? The argument brings up several key proofs. First, there's his personal character and the miracles that are attributed to him. Second, you have the incredible societal impact of the law he brought. And third, there's this powerful consensus from the people who knew him best, the saints, the scholars, and the companions who followed him. This quote really gets right to the heart of the argument. The logic is that a person with such a high moral standing, someone who could reportedly perform miracles, is just fundamentally incompatible with being a liar. His extraordinary actions are put forward as proof that his words must also be true.
So once the traveler has established the truthfulness of the messenger, the next logical step is to check out the message itself. The two are presented as being completely, inseparably intertwined.
And that brings our traveler to the next major piece of evidence, the Quran. It's presented here not just as a holy book, but as a standalone proof in and of itself.
The way the source presents the Quran's claim to truth is like an unbreakable fortress defended from 6 different directions. It's got proofs beneath it, a divine stamp above it, a clear goal out in front of it, and the support of revelation behind it. Then, on either side, it's backed up by the agreement of both rational minds and sincere hearts. It's an argument for a complete 360-degree proof.
To really illustrate this claim of unique power, the text shares this incredible story. A poet, a master of language, hears a single verse from the Quran and is so completely overwhelmed by its sheer beauty and eloquence that he just falls to his knees. And the key thing here is, he wasn't even a believer yet. He was just a master craftsman recognizing a level of artistry that he knew was far beyond any human ability.
The argument for its uniqueness continues with this really direct comparison. You know how even the greatest human works can get a little tiresome if you hear them too much? Well, the Quran is said to actually grow sweeter with repetition. Human writing ages, it feels dated. The Quran is said to feel as fresh as the day it was revealed. And this is a crucial one. Any human style can be imitated, but its style is presented as something completely unattainable.
So now, our traveler starts to bring it all together. They begin to synthesize these two massive lines of evidence, the proof of the messenger and the proof of the message, and merge them into one single, cohesive conclusion. And this is where the two proofs just lock together. The argument is that the very existence of a man like the Prophet Muhammad is a miracle that validates the Quran. And, at the same time, the existence of a book like the Quran is a miracle that validates the Prophet. Each one serves as undeniable proof for the other.
This unified proof is then sealed by 3 layers of what the text calls infallible consensus. First, you have his own family, the people who knew him more intimately than anyone. Second, you have his companions, who literally sacrificed everything for their belief in him. And third, you have this continuous chain of scholars all throughout history who have studied and confirmed his message.
And so our traveler finally reaches the end of the line. The conclusion is that the testimony about the Creator is confirmed from 2 directions. Internally, by the perfect coherence of the message and the messenger, and externally, by its undeniable 1,400-year impact on all of human history. This entire complex journey, from the heavens to the Prophet's life, all the way to the text of the Quran, it's all ultimately distilled into this single, powerful declaration. It asserts a necessary existence, which means a being that must exist, by its very nature, and presents this whole line of reasoning as the proof. This is the final answer to that big question that started the whole quest.
We've just walked through a really intricate argument for why one specific message is considered timeless. But stepping back, this whole journey kind of raises a broader question for all of us, doesn't it? What qualities make any message, or any idea, powerful enough to endure and resonate across centuries?
Welcome. Today, we're going to explore a really fascinating piece of philosophy from Said Nursi. We're going to follow an inquisitive traveler on an intellectual quest through the entire cosmos, all to answer one of the biggest questions there is. What is this existence all about, and who is its creator?
So our story kicks off with this invitation. But we're not actually packing any bags for this trip. This is a journey of the mind. Our guide is a traveler who uses the universe itself as a kind of map, trying to understand its origins, not through just blind faith, but by using observation and pure reason.
All right, here's our game plan for the journey. First, we'll look at the traveler's big question. Then we'll see how the universe can be read just like a book. After that, we'll dig into 4 key arguments for unity, zoom in on some everyday miracles, and finally, we'll land at the journey's ultimate conclusion.
Okay, let's get into it. Our protagonist is a seeker, right? Someone who looks up at the stars, who watches the seasons change, who looks at all of life and just asks, who made all of this? So this journey isn't about crossing oceans, it's about moving through layers of understanding.
For this traveler, the number one source of evidence is the cosmos itself. The whole idea is that if you just look closely enough, if you listen carefully, the universe actually tells its own story, and it points you directly toward its author.
So the first real stop on this journey is to stop seeing the universe as just a random collection of stuff and instead to see it as a massive, coherent book. And just like any book, it's full of clues about its writer. The first two huge clues are these concepts called createdness and contingency.
Let's start with createdness. So our traveler looks around, and every single autumn, they see a world die. The plants wither, the insects vanish, but then, every spring, a whole new world is born from the seeds and eggs that were left behind. This constant, orderly cycle of death and rebirth, it really suggests the universe isn't just static or eternal. It is actively and continuously being made, and that points to a maker.
And then there's this idea of contingency. Think about your own hand for a second. I mean, it could have been designed in a million different ways, right? So why this exact shape? This concept argues that for every single thing that exists, from a tiny atom to a giant planet, a specific form was chosen out of an infinite number of possibilities. That doesn't imply chance. It implies a conscious, purposeful chooser.
So here's how these two big ideas really work together. Createdness suggests there is a maker, and contingency, well, it suggests this maker is wise and acts with intention. So one clue points to existence, and the other points to the character of that existence.
And that brings us to the next leg of our journey. See, knowing there's a wise creator isn't quite the end of the story. The next question is a really big one. Could there be more than one? So now, the traveler observes 4 profound truths that all point to the idea that the creator has to be singular.
The first truth is what's called absolute divinity. The traveler observes that all beings, especially conscious ones like us, have this innate desire to show gratitude, to worship something. And this, he argues, points to a single, ultimate object of that worship. The whole point is that the very nature of divinity, of being worthy of worship, it just can't accept partners. It has to be exclusive. Second is absolute dominicality, or you could say lordship. The traveler says, just look around you. You can see a consistent, compassionate hand everywhere, nurturing all of life. There's this unified purpose. Now, if there were multiple lords, their purposes might clash, right? That would create chaos. But instead, what we see is a single, coherent system of care.
The third truth is about perfections. The universe is just filled with incredible wisdom, beauty, and order. All of this reflects a perfect creator. From this perspective, adding partners would imply imperfection or need or conflict, and that would turn this beautiful cosmos into, well, in Nursi's own words, a cruel slaughterhouse without any meaning.
And number 4, absolute sovereignty. The universe operates with this stunning order, from the wing of a tiny fly to the orbits of distant stars. It really runs like a perfectly managed kingdom. And, as the logic goes, you just can't have 2 kings in one kingdom without it falling into complete anarchy. The perfect order we see implies the rule of a single, absolute sovereign.
So, after making the case for a single creator from this huge cosmic perspective, our traveler now zooms way in. The argument is that you don't actually need a telescope to see the proof. You just need to look closely at the miracles that are happening right in front of your face every single day.
Let's just take the bee, for example. In its tiny little head is a complete program for all of its complex tasks. Its stomach is basically a sophisticated factory that turns nectar into honey. And its sting is a weapon that doesn't even harm its own body. To the traveler, this is no accident of blind chance. It's a miniature miracle of divine power and knowledge. Or how about the production of milk? From between blood and waste, this pure, white, clean, and nutritious substance is created. It totally defies its origins. The traveler sees this as more than just a biological function. It's a profound lesson in mercy, a clear sign of a creator who provides with wisdom and with care.
And finally, think about a grape or a date. These trees often grow in really dry, harsh soil, and yet they become these tiny factories producing perfectly sweet fruit. Each grape is described as a little pump of syrup wrapped in this delicate skin. This level of artistry, this balance and wisdom, repeated over and over all across the globe, it points to a creator with truly limitless power. And now we've arrived at our final stop. After journeying from the grand cosmic scale all the way down to the microscopic, after listening to what the universe as a whole and its smallest parts have to say, the traveler is finally ready to state their conclusion.
The logic has been built up step by step. The arguments from createdness and contingency, they suggested a wise maker. The truths of divinity, dominicality, perfections, and sovereignty, They suggested that maker must be one. And then the miracles in the bee, in milk, in the grape, they all confirmed this conclusion on a very real, tangible level.
And so our traveler arrives at this ultimate affirmation. It's not presented as some big leap of faith, but as the logical destination of a journey of reason and observation. Every single piece of evidence, every clue in the great book of the universe has led to this one powerful statement.
And that brings us to the end of our exploration. The traveler's journey ends with an answer, but it leaves us with a question. If we follow this line of thought, if we really see the entire universe as a sign, as a pointer, we're each left to consider for ourselves, what exactly is it pointing to? Thanks for joining me.
Welcome. In this explainer, we're going to embark on a journey. Not a physical one, but a journey of the mind. We'll be following a traveler through a really profound text, someone who's trying to answer one of the biggest questions there is, a question about our existence and the power that created everything.
So, this is the question at the very heart of the whole quest. I mean, think about it. How can one single power create a massive star just as easily as it creates a tiny single atom? It seems impossible, right? And that's exactly what our traveler sets out to figure out. They're not looking to just believe an answer. No, they want to understand it, to actually see the proof for themselves, written right into the fabric of the universe. And so the quest begins. Now, this traveler, they aren't crossing oceans or climbing mountains. This is a journey of the mind, a journey of pure intellect and observation. The whole point is to move past just, simple inherited belief. They're searching for a truth that they can actually see, something that they can reason with.
And this quote, this really gets to the heart of it all. An hour's reflective thought is better than a year's worship. What this tells us is that the goal here isn't just blind belief. It's about realization. The whole idea is that deep, honest, reflective thought can take something you've just been told and turn it into something you truly know deep down.
Okay, so the first stop on this journey of reflection is a big one. We have to try and understand the very nature of this power. I mean, what does it really mean for a power to be absolute, to have no limits at all? So the text brings us to what it calls the first mystery, and it goes like this. If a power is essential, and that just means it's a core, inseparable part of the divine essence, then its opposite, weakness or impotence, just can't exist inside of it. It's like pure light. There can't be any darkness within pure light. And if there's no weakness, well, that means the whole idea of difficulty disappears. There are no levels, no degrees. Nothing is harder or easier to do.
Now, I know that's a pretty abstract concept. So to make it more concrete, the text gives us a really powerful analogy. Just think about the sun. Does the sun struggle more to light up a million tiny mirrors than it does to light up just one? Of course not. Its light hits countless places all at once with zero effort. This is supposed to give us a little glimpse, a small window into how an absolute power could work. And all of this leads to a really mind-bending conclusion. For a power that is absolute, that is essential, that has no degrees, our human concepts of big and small, or easy and hard, they just don't apply. They become meaningless. Creating an entire galaxy or creating a single atom become the exact same thing, a single, effortless act.
All right, so after grappling with the nature of this absolute power, our traveler now shifts their focus. They start looking outward at the universe itself. They're searching for evidence, right? A kind of consistent signature, a stamp, left on everything that's been created.
And what they find is this deep, profound unity everywhere they look. You see that beings resemble one another, that they help each other out, they complement one another. Everything seems to share the same stamp of artistry. It's all interconnected, like a series of overlapping circles. And you see that countless things are made all at once, together, with this incredible precision and without a single mistake. So all of this observation leads to a huge conclusion about order. That perfect, harmonious order that we see everywhere, from the massive orbits of galaxies all the way down to the tiny cells circulating in our blood. That very order is a sign of unity. The text argues that a system this seamless, this perfect, it just logically has to point to one single, unopposed orchestrator.
Seeing this universal order makes the traveler's observation go even deeper. Now they start to look past just the static laws of the universe, and they begin to see active principles, you could call them divine attributes, at work, right there in the world. The first of these is what the text calls the truth of opening. And what is that? Well, it's the absolute miracle of seeing so much diversity, so many different and unique forms,
all coming from a single, simple substance. Just think about it. Countless forms of plants, animals, people, all of them unfolding from the most basic materials.
And to make this point, the text uses a really powerful, really personal example. He it is who forms you in the wombs as he wills. The creation of a totally unique human being with a distinct face, a distinct identity, that's presented as the ultimate proof of this opening power. It's a miracle of artistry that happens billions and billions of times over, perfectly.
Next up, the traveler observes what's called the truth of mercifulness. Now, this isn't just about being kind. It's about a whole universal system of care. The world is seen as this incredible feasting place where every single creature gets what it needs. And, this is the crucial part, is also given the senses and the mind to actually experience and enjoy it all.
Here the text gives us another amazing analogy to connect the tiny with the vast. Picture the whole cosmos as a giant tree. The earth is a fruit on that tree, and a human is like a tiny seed inside that fruit. The argument is, if you can make the seed, which contains the blueprint for the whole tree, then you must also be the one who made the tree itself. The creator of the part has to be the creator of the whole.
And finally, the traveler comes to the truth of provision, and the text points out something really fascinating here. It says that sustenance, food, what we need to live, it's given most reliably not to the strongest, but to the weakest and most helpless. Think about it. Babies, young animals, even trees, their sustenance just comes to them. And this is presented as proof that provision isn't about power or effort, it's an act of mercy, tied to need and trust. So, when you put it all together, these observations about absolute power, about cosmic unity, about these divine attributes, they're not just interesting philosophical ideas. They're actual steps on a path that's designed to move the traveler from one kind of belief to a much, much deeper one.
And this is really the destination of the whole journey. The idea is to progress, to move from what's called imitation, which is just believing something because someone told you to, all the way through realization, knowledge of certainty, and vision of certainty, until you arrive at absolute certainty. A belief that's not just inherited, but is grounded in the evidence you can see with your own two eyes.
So we're left with this final thought. The text basically presents the entire universe as a giant book filled with signs. And the traveler's journey? Well, that's just a method for how to read that book. So it leaves us with a question for ourselves. If every single thing is a sign pointing to a single truth, what do the signs all around you say?